this video, Dana Hatchett will discuss the relativity of color.
The different colors you place down in different configurations changes the way we perceive them, okay? This is more just practice, just basically looking at these things, and it's not like there's a set goal in mind. It's just looking at color and how color can change in certain settings, okay? Now we see how the green affects the brown. The brown color has a little bit of red in it, I believe, a little bit of orange in it. And let's look and see what happens when just different...
That looks like olive to me, like green, olive, and turquoise type.
Green, olive, and turquoise. Okay. Now I'm not seeing what the camera's seeing, which sees something different too, but something will be there, okay? All right, let's just look and see how these things change when we move things around. How does that blue feel? Does it feel like it's solid, or does it feel like it's kind of moving into the background green, possibly? Now let's try an opposing color. The blue and the orange are somewhat opposites from one another on the color wheel. So let's see what happens. Here's the blue now. Look what happens to the blue under this particular setting. The blue is very isolated now with the orange and the green around it. Let's see what happens when we just try different backgrounds and see how it changes. Now just notice what happens along the edges of the color too. How does the blue look different to you, Debbie?
Oh, it looks brighter, actually.
Brighter. Let's just try different settings, different configurations. So the backgrounds can change how things appear. Look how the yellow affects that. It kind of isolates it. And for me, there's a certain kind of like a little radiation along the lines on the outside, and that's the opposing colors kind of struggling against one another. Now look what happens here. You see how it kind of turns off the activity that was happening before? Now when I'm looking at this now, I'm seeing red. I'm seeing red kind of pinkish outlines around the blue.
That doesn't have to do with the yellow though, right? If you move it like...
No, let's just play around with it. Color really is very enjoyable, okay? Let's see, here's a brown. Let's put this brown in the background here and see what happens, how that affects things. What is more active? Is the purple against the brown more active than the green against the purple?
The bluish green.
Bluish green.
What do you think? What's the answer?
I don't think there really is an answer. I think it's basically it keeps shifting and changing for when people look at it. Let's try this. Now what I try to prompt people to do and notice, okay, when they're working on these, is how does it feel? There's a certain feeling it might have. The colors are great conveyors of emotion and feeling. I'm just trying, I'm just seeing what happens. How does the blue feel now?
It's in the other one. It was a more subdued.
More subdued?
And then to me, it's more dramatic.
Let's try something that's a very similar color to the blue. Let's put the green out here and see what happens to it. Let's look at the green out here now. And let's look what happens when the blue sits inside there. For me, it makes the green more subtly yellow green as opposed to a blue green. What do you think might happen when I put this pink down here underneath the blue?
I have no idea.
Let's see. Well, look at, there's a kind of synergy between the green and the blue here. Look what happens when the pink comes underneath here. It's kind of turning the blue off from what it was doing before.
And why would that be, do you think, from your opinion?
Because they're opposites on the color wheel, so they're contrasting with one another. What happens when this occurs is it's drawing the color, the background color is drawing color away from or towards the colors around it. Okay? And the way to look at these things is just to be let your eyes just very easily rest and move through the image without any kind of commitment on any kind. Okay? Just basically looking and seeing what happens. Okay. Now, when I look at the edges around this blue here, it feels different here. See how it's no longer as sharp? It's kind of turns it off in a way, but it turns it on in another way as well. Okay. Now let me pick a color, this brown. This would be more of a color that's made from primary colors. So let's see what happens in different settings. Wow, what happened there? Happened to that brown?
Looks darker to me. I don't know.
Darker.
Bolder.
Let's see what happens when we put a sheet of white paper between these two. I guess it's not that different.
Well, it is a different experience because the yellow, it seems like the brown has more of a yellowishness in it, right?
Mm-hmm. You see how the brown on that side or the brown is now a little different? Because the orange is drawing the orange is drawing itself out of that color. So colors are constantly shifting against one another. Let's try this. This against, say this. Now, what is this? This is not like really pragmatic thinking. It's basically playing. It's seeing what happens when you change backgrounds. To my eyes, this is more purple and this is more red. Okay. Let's look at the yellow against this brown. Now let's look what happens when we have a larger area of color behind this brown. So quantity as well as the background helps change the setting. See how that feels different? Does that feel different?